Now we want to understand the composition of the vapor phase. You can see here in the liquid kind of solution, the mole fraction of component 1 is x1 and mole fraction of component 2 is x2, and then we have total 1. In the vapor phase also we have the mole fraction of component 1 y1 and mole fraction of component 2 y2, and that also is equal to total 1. Here we can see that in vapor phase also we have solvent that is represented by the red dots. We have solute that is represented by the black dots. Same way into the liquid phase also we have the solute that is represented by the black dots, and we have the solvent that is represented by the red dots. So in your vapor phase also there is contribution of each component because both the components are volatile. The composition of vapor phase even depends upon the mole fraction of each component in the liquid phase or for P total. So you can see that in the liquid phase, whatever the components of both solute and solvent are present, depending upon that, we can understand about the contribution or mole fraction of component 1 and 2 into the gaseous phase, and that is how we can even determine the total vapor pressure, or we also know it as a P total. Suppose the mole fraction of a component 1 in the vapor phase is y1 and mole fraction of component 2 in the vapor phase is y2. On the basis of using the Dalton's law of partial pressure, we can write that P1 is equal to Y1 multiplied by P total and P2 is equal to Y2 multiplied by P total. Remember that P1 is equal to P10x1, that is the vapor pressure that is exerted by component 1 was also equal to the mole fraction of component 1 into the liquid phase, as well as the mole fraction as well as the vapor pressure of component 1 exerted into the pure form. Same way we can write P2 is equal to P20x2. In other words, we can write that P10x1 is equal to Y1 into P total, or we can even write P20x2 is equal to Y2 into P total. These are the very important equations that you can utilize for the solution of various problems if needed. Here y1 and y2 are the mole fraction of component 1 and 2 in the vapor phase, and x1 and x2 are the mole fraction of component 1 and 2 in the liquid phase. Remember that y1 and y2 is always equal to 1 and x1 and x2 is also equal to 1 always. Suppose there are I components, or in general if we want to write the same equation, we can write Pi is equal to Yi into P total, or Pi is equal to Xi into Pi 0, that is the vapor pressure of component in the pure form. Just an important note from the textbook, please solve the solved example 2.5. If you now look at the textbook, there is one solved example given which is having the number 2.5. Please go through that example and solve it. Now we'll understand the Raoult's law as a special case of Henry's law. Now both Raoult's law and Henry's law are based on the mole fraction. For solute we can write P1 is equal to x1 into P10. This is according to the Raoult's law. For Henry's law we can write the vapor pressure exerted by the solution, that is because of the solute, is equal to, that is the gas, is equal to kh into x of solute, that is the mole fraction of gas into the solution. This is what it is based on the Henry's law. Both expresses the partial pressure of the solute in the vapor phase. Comparing both of them, we can write x1, that is the x of solute, and p1, that is the vapor pressure of solute, and that is why x1 is equal to x of solute and p1 is equal to p of solute, and that is why we can write Henry's law kh is equal to P10. It means that Henry's law can be simply converted or considered as a Raoult's law in this particular case. So it means that Henry's constant Kh and vapor pressure of pure component 1, that is solute, become equal. So Raoult's law becomes special case of Henry's law when the value of Kh is equal to the vapor pressure exerted by component 1 in its pure form. So this is how we can truly understand about the spatial case. Now vapor pressure of solutions when we have solid which is dissolved in liquid. Now we need to study a type of solution in which solute which is a solid and which is a non-volatile component, solvent which is a liquid which is a volatile component. So when we add solute to the solvent which is a liquid, solute is non-volatile and solvent is volatile. So vapor pressure is just because of the solvent, not at all due to the solute, because solute is non-volatile and it cannot be evaporated, and that is why it does not contribute into the total vapor pressure. Now let us understand the same with the figure. Now we have taken the solvent that we are going to use for this particular mixture. So we have the pure solvent. From this pure solvent, evaporation takes place, and due to evaporation, the liquid solvent goes into the vapor, and then it exerts the pressure on the liquid surface, that is P0, or we can write P0 of solvent. So this P0 is just because of the pure solvent, that is what we can understand. So initially we have pure solvent which is a volatile liquid, goes into the vapor phase, generate vapor pressure P0 solvent. Now let us add non-volatile solid to it. So now you can see here in this particular figure we have added a non-volatile solid to it. The solvent is represented with the red dots and solute is represented with the black dots. So here the black dots represents the non-volatile solute. You can see that on the surface of this liquid there are some solute particles which are represented into black are present. In the vapor phase you can see that there is no black dots available because this solid solute does not evaporate and goes into the vapor phase. So in vapor phase only we have the solvent that is present, but in the liquid phase we have both solute as well as solvent are present. Now please have a look at the above figure. We can see that solute particles in the liquid phase and on the surface, but not in the vapor phase. So solid particles are not present into the vapor phase. The non-volatile solute even takes some place on the surface and decreases the evaporation of volatile solvent, as evaporation is a surface phenomena. In the 9th standard we have studied that evaporation is a surface phenomena, and that is why from the surface only the volatile substances goes into the vapor phase. Now initially when we had a look at this particular picture, we have seen that the surface is made only by the solvent, and that is maximum amount of solvent goes into the vapor phase. But here some of the surface is taken by the solute particles, so the surface area for solvent decreases, and that is why less amount of solvent goes into the vapor phase. So now this P total ultimately is less than the P0 solvent, so the pressure exerted in the pure form by the solvent here decreases, and the new total pressure exerted in this is less than the total pressure exerted by the pure solvent. In other words, we can say that thus addition of non-volatile solute to the solvent will reduces the vapor pressure. Thus total vapor pressure is less than the vapor pressure exerted by the pure solvent. Therefore, we can write P total is less than P0 solvent. If we plot a graph for solution that has volatile solvent and solid, that is non-volatile solute, vapor pressure versus mole fraction graph we are going to plot. This is the graph, dear students. For you I have drawn it. So this is how we can draw the graph. Here we have the vapor pressure and here we have the mole fraction. You can see that when there is a pure solvent present, then the vapor pressure is P0. But as we keep on adding the solute which is non volatile, the vapor pressure decreases, and when the quantity of, or when the mole fraction, this is 1 and this is 0, when the mole fraction of pure component 1 become 1, then in this case what happens, we get the zero vapor pressure, because solid does not evaporate and it does not even provide any vapor pressure. You can see that here the graph drawn is a linear, and that is why we can say that this kind of solution, that means the solution of solid into liquid, also follow the Raoult's law. Let us study the same in the notes that we have written. When we look at the above plot, we realize that non-volatile solute does not contribute to the P total. So minimum P total is equal to 0 and maximum P total is equal to P0 solvent. In other words, P total is always less than the P0 solvent for the mixture. Addition of non-volatile solute decreases the vapor pressure or lowers the vapor pressure. Note, here we get the linear graph. It means the solution obeys the Raoult's law for all concentrations. The decrease. Now we have seen that by addition of the solute to the solvent, the vapor pressure is being lowered or vapor pressure is decreased. The decrease in the vapor pressure depends upon the quantity of non-volatile solute or mole fraction of non-volatile solute that is added present in the solution, irrespective of its nature. Dear students, please note, it does not depend upon the nature of the solute that is added. Let us understand the same with one of the example. The decrease in the vapor pressure of water by adding 1 mole of sucrose to 1 kg of water is nearly similar to the decrease in the vapor pressure of water by adding 1 mole of urea. If you add 1 mole of urea, if you add 1 mole of sucrose, the decrease in the vapor pressure is almost same. We need to add the same mole into 1 kg of water at constant temperature. So we can say that P total proportional to X2. What is your X2? X2 is the mole fraction of component 2 or mole fraction of solvent, and that is why we can say that P total proportional to mole fraction of solvent, or we can say that P total is equal to vapor pressure exerted by the solvent in its pure form multiplied by its mole fraction. So this is how we can understand in detail about the various types of solution and their vapor pressure, at the same time with reference with the Dalton's law of partial pressure and Raoult's law. Thank you, dear student.